Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we have not one but two Middle-earth strategy battle game reveals. It's almost like I prophesized this last night. Oh wait, I did. We finally have the remaining two hero models from the War of the Rohirrim range that already have rules, that we know have rules, that have been in the book since December last year when it released. It's a little bit mind-boggling that not only has it taken 8 months for them to reveal them, but also it's going to be probably 9 months before they're released. Hey, this is apparently how Middle-earth strategy battle game works these days. But in all seriousness, I'm happy with most of this. This is pretty good. The models are nice. I have a few complaints on Olwyn, and I keep getting her name wrong, but we'll go with Olwyn because that's what the title says. So we'll have a look at her in a minute. First, we'll have a look at Fréaláf. My biggest criticism, and this might be where I explode, is how these are being released. But let's focus on the positive, shall we? Fréaláf, Hilderson, and Olwyn arrive in Middle-earth strategy battle game. More than 2 centuries before the epoch-defining events of The Lord of the Rings, another conflict came to define the realm of Rohan. This was the so-called War of the Rohirrim, an internecine struggle between the mighty King Helm and his dastardly rival Freka, Lord of the Westmarch. The tale is told in The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. I'm going to omit the word epic because it isn't, the animated movie that came out 8 months ago. And you can retell it on the tabletop with a forthcoming Middle-earth journal, War of the Rohirrim, which contains a series of linked scenarios following the events of the film. As exciting as new Middle-earth strategy battle game stuff is, it's not the best journal to start off with, but at least it's done and out of the way. I will link that video at the end of this one if you want to hear my thoughts on the journal. But what good are scenarios without miniatures? That's a very good question, Games Workshop. Where have the miniatures been? So I want to preface everything I'm going to say now with, yes, these are painted and designed in the style of the animated film. It's not an art style that I love. It isn't a character design that I thought was that intriguing. But I'm looking at these pose-wise, detail-wise, and honestly, I will probably paint them a different way anyway. But I'm looking them at more of a, what could I do with them in a Rohan army as opposed to how they're painted here. Because I don't like the colour scheme, I don't like the character design style of the animated film. But Fréaláf, who is my favourite character from the film, I think looks incredible. I really like the horse, the pose. I wish he had some sort of helmeted version as well. Without giving any spoilers away, I would have loved to have seen a second model of him towards the end of the film. If you know Middle-earth history or you've seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I think as a heroic character, I quite like the on-foot model, and I do quite like the sort of riding forth, sword out, charging mounted model. The one preface I will say with the mounted model is we're seeing quite a few of them in that similar pose. It's a repeated pose, but I guess there's only so much you can do when you're charging into war. Overall, I like it. I think the horse is nicely detailed, but not overly detailed. I think his miniature is nicely detailed, but again, not overly detailed. And with a more muted paint scheme, I think he will fit right in with the rest of the Rohirrim miniatures, both new and old, so I like this one. Fréaláf Hilderson is the first Marshal of the Riddermark and the Lord of Harrowdale. When his uncle Helm Hammerhand was determined to fight Freka, it was Fréaláf who tries to convince him to stay his hand. When the armies of Wolf surround Edoras, he urges his liege to abandon the city and to get his people to safety. An act that sees him dismissed from Helm's war room. Regardless, he remains loyal to his liege and his bloodline and will ride to the aid of Hera in her time of most dire need. And he's a pretty big character in the lore of Rohan post this moment. Then we move on to Olwyn, who is a made-up character for the film. I'm not saying that her background, her origins are incorrect, because I think they are. The Shield Maidens have always been a thing. Model-wise, I don't love the on-foot model, but I quite like the rearing horse mounted model. I think that's quite nice. Again, it's a bit of a repeated pose. I think we've seen ring wraiths with that pose, but I quite like this, certainly from that angle. The horse is hiding the sword that she's drawn. I think that's just a nice little bit of detail, like a little bit of subtlety, a little bit of secrecy to what she's doing. The on-foot model, I think, is just a bit boring, and again, I don't think the paint scheme does them any favours. but if you've heard me talk about the Hera model, the paint scheme does it no favours at all. But on the whole, I quite like this. As characters, I wouldn't necessarily rush to pick Olwyn up. The profile isn't bad, but I just wouldn't go down the route of having her unless it was a specifically themed army that I wanted to do something with. Or we were going to do the scenarios, the 11 scenarios in the new journal. But on the whole, nice detailed miniatures, not overly detailed, but still you've got everything in there that you need. And she isn't an armor-clad warrior. She is very much a older, more retired, more reserved, certainly at this point in the film, character, a little bit of a protector, but she's certainly not leading armies. So all of that fits. It's just, again, the art style, the paint scheme. I'd do something different, but I think with what they have to work with, again, they've done quite well with this miniature. The Shield Maidens of Rohan were proud warrior women of Rohan who defended their lands against invaders throughout the kingdom's history. Though they were thought to be all but gone by the time of Helm's rule, Olwyn still upholds the values and training she gained in her youth. An exceptional warrior by any standard, she will fight valiantly to protect those she's close to, in particular Hera, to whom she imparts her wisdom, along with the ways of the Shield Maidens of old. Here's the negative bit, and I'm going to call you out on this one, GW. I think this is a trash choice. I actually think this is pretty disgusting. I completely understand why they're throwing Leaf, Olwyn and Fréaláf in a box together, because individually Leaf probably isn't going to sell that well. Olwyn probably isn't going to sell that well. And on balance, compared to other characters that you could do from either of the other trilogies, I don't think Fréaláf is going to sell a huge amount either. Lumping them all in a box together is a poor choice, but I get it. You want something easy that you can just throw in a corner and forget about when it doesn't sell after the first few weeks. But as somebody who only wants the Fréaláf model, and not necessarily the other two, but hey, what do I know about business? Both Fréaláf and Olwyn are available in plastic soon, and they're coming in a 6 miniature box set which includes them mounted and on foot, and Leaf, who was revealed probably 2 months ago, and now we find out that he's being released in a box with 2 other heroes. So just to recap, Helm Hammerhand, in his armor leading the army Battle of Edoras model, is plastic and he was being released on his own, just the 2 miniatures. Leaf is coming with Olwyn and Fréaláf. Hera is already available, she's on her own. Hammer and Haleth are both available in a set together, which is fine. I guess they came in the stat set as well, so I can understand that one. If this was 3 characters who were distinctly linked, who were always on screen together, who had no time apart, if this was the 3 hunters, let's say, Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli, I would be fine with boxing them together and then having 2 mounted versions of them as well, and that would be an incredible box. I'd be happy with that. But the fact that it's obscure movies from a film that didn't really land, I just don't like this. I don't like being forced to buy things when I don't want all of it, and 60% of this box for me is incredibly optional. That's just me. It depends how this is priced. If this is priced at a very good discount, if this box is... let me just check how much the dual Hammer and Haleth boxes are. So going by Games Workshop's online store, £31.50 with no discounts for Haleth and Hammer, which is a dual hero box. If this bundle of 3 heroes is £31.50, I know I'm clutching at straws here. I'm okay with that, actually. In all honesty, I'd pay that for 2 models, 2 hero models, I'd pay that for these 3. If it's any more than that, I think you're going to struggle, because Leaf isn't going to do a huge amount. He has some nice rules, but he isn't going to do a huge amount, and honestly, he's a nothing character. Olwyn, again, is a bit of a nothing character, and Fréaláf, as much as I like him, he's still a bit of a nothing character. I think this box is an incredibly tough sell, but if it's priced decently, and this is Games Workshop we're talking about, so you never know, but if it's priced decently, I could be on board with it and take back this negativity. Model-wise, I think that the Fréaláf is pretty good. The other 2 are nice. On balance, just sell them individually and just take the hit. Games Workshop. You make enough money out of everybody. You sell enough Space Marines to be able to just release these on their own, for God's sake. But either way, we're getting the final 2 War of the Rohirrim characters, All the models, all the plastic models certainly, have been decent. Decent to good. And the journal is coming probably when these release. These will release there. You can see King Helm on that picture. He will be releasing alongside these. I'm glad that it's not a box that has King Helm and these in a 4-hero box. I think that would be even worse, to be honest. But this box, if you wanted to do a box like this, and I don't think they did, I think they wanted each of these to be individual releases and the film to be amazing. The film wasn't amazing. It got pulled from cinemas after about 2 weeks of release. It's a Lord of the Rings film that has no real defining qualities compared to the other Lord of the Rings films. It's animated in an animation style that doesn't work for what they wanted to do. The character design was bland. All of the choices around the film are pretty poor. Games Workshop have been lumbered with these choices. They had nothing to do with the design of these characters. They probably didn't even get to see them. And that's why it's taken so long for them to reveal these last few characters. Because they had to wait for the film to come out. Because Warner Brothers knew it was going to flop really hard. It was just churning something out to make sure that Warner Brothers keep the Middle-earth license. That's what that film was. And you will not be able to tell me otherwise. So I think that this box and the journal, we're getting the journal when this box drops, when King Helm drops, that is going to be the War of the Rohirrim, all in a nice War of the Rohirrim box, little bow tied on the top, and then just thrown out and ignored. Then Journal 2 will really be the start of what we're going to start to see for the future of Middle-earth strategy battle game. The other thing is contractually obliged to release these miniatures, but then they're released, they're done, they're finished, they can move on to refreshing some of the heroes, maybe making new heroes, doing much more interesting things than the War of the Rohirrim. So, big positives, the models are quite nice. This is the end of the War of the Rohirrim products that they are probably obliged to make, and the future is not the War of the Rohirrim. I'm on board with all those 3 points. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you going to be... First question, are you going to be picking up this box with the 6 heroes? Or 3 heroes, sorry. Second question, if you're not going to be picking up this box, would you be buying any of these heroes individually if they were available that way? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.